Hello, good evening, and welcome to this new edition of the English News. Our major stories for tonight are: the head of state chaired the launching of the National Solidarity Program ceremony. The coalition of UMP to organize its convention on Friday night.
Those were the headlines. Welcome to RTD's newsroom. The head of state, Ismail Omar Guelleh, has chaired today in Damerjog the official launching ceremony of the National Program for Family Solidarity, PNSF. Upon his arrival on the scene, he has been welcomed by the Prime Minister Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed, the Secretary of State to the National Solidarity, Zahra Yusuf Khayat, the Prefect of the Artas region, Abdullahi Dalal Auqiye, as well as the President of the Regional Council. The President of the National Assembly, Mr. Mohammed Ali Mohammed, member of the government and parliamentary representative of the diplomatic corps, international organizations accredited to Djibouti, civil and military authorities, as well as the customary leaders of these localities have taken part in this ceremony. The PNSF is an innovative program of monetary transfer intended to the household in a situation of extreme poverty. Its overall objective is to improve the living condition of the poorest. This initiative will be funded by the government in the framework of the National Investment Program known as PIN. The people who will benefit for this program will receive during a year an amount of 18,000 francs every 3 months, and it will fill the camp of the food insecurity and allow to the household to manage the risks of life. The prefect of the region of Arta recalled that solidarity is an essential factor of the fight against poverty. We all know that solidarity is a value tied to daily life of the Djiboutians. I would like to pay tribute to the high members of the government who showed up in this ceremony because they are convinced about the policy of the head of state, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, just as human as optimistic. The leader who is leading the country for a better future, he said.
dadka sabaka yaala way ku sacabtumeeno wayna ku sarakaceene
gidigaaga sii wado markaleeta soo noqo
gidigaaga sii wado markaleeta soo noqo
gidigaaga sii wado markaleeta soo noqo
dadka sabaka yaala way ku sacabtumeeno wayna ku sarakaceene
gidigaaga sii wado markaleeta soo noqo
gidigaaga sii wado markaleeta soo noqo
gidigaaga sii wado markaleeta soo noqo
uu siiyo noo horseeday samao.
Tout le monde s'accorde à dire la solidarité est une valeur.
The Secretary of State to the National Solidarity, in her speech, has thanked in the first place the Head of State, Ismail Omar Guelleh, for sponsoring the official launch of this program. The BNSF, she said, is a program based on the strengthening of solidarity and redistribution of resources based on equity and social justice. This reflects, she said, the ongoing commitment to meet the challenges linked to poverty.
The head of state in his speech did not fail to remind the duties undertaken by his government, putting the poorest people at the forefront of his agenda, and also the solutions which are implemented by the 2035 visions and the escape strategy to face poverty at all scales of the nation. Let's listen to the head of state.
De me joindre à vous afin de parrainer cette cérémonie de lancement du programme national.
This is for me a great honor to join you in order to sponsor this ceremony for the launching of the national program of monetary transfer, first of its kind in our country. Therefore, I'd like to thank the Demirjoq people and authorities for this warm welcome. My presence today among you highlights the special interest that I give to the social protection to all layers of the population, and in particular to those of us who are the most deprived and vulnerable. Helping and assisting our fellow citizens, and especially the poorest, to improve their life's condition and actively to support them in their social climbing remain the human duty and the fundamental priority for which my government and I are committed. I would like to express the government's willingness to place the social protection at the forefront of the 2035 vision and escape strategy within sight of a sustained development based on the human capital in the framework of the fight against extreme poverty and social inequalities. In 2012, the government has developed a national strategy and social protection based on the social safety nets for the poor people. One of the major elements is the establishment of non-conditioning and conditioning monetary transfer program and the construction of a robust identification system for the vulnerable population called social register. The National Solidarity Domestic Program is thus part of this vision and these different strategies. Social protection is one of the government priority in order to build a republic where all people have universal access to promotional social services, preventive and creative services of quality without any form of exclusion. A new republic determined to fight social injustice and the promotion of accessibility to basic social services, particularly for the most deprived and disadvantaged. My ambition in this program is to enable all Djiboutians to access complementary services, the monetary transfer, healthcare quality, the access of education of good quality, creating jobs and opportunities, and the access to microfinance. The National Solidarity Program constitutes an important investment for the economic growth. This is the essential means to reduce poverty in our country and a high approach in the construction of a prosperous, emerging and a sustainable republic. Today, in the framework of this program, more than 16,000 families will benefit not only of this monetary transfer, but also the mean which will allow them to improve their lives conditions. Beyond this political willingness based on my vision of the economic and social development, whose only purpose is the full development and the well-being of every citizen, I have the ambition to register the actions of the government in the wake of the international commitment undertaken by our country. The ambition of my government for improving tirelessly living condition of our fellow citizens is large, and our determination to put in place a viable system of social protection remain changeless. I would therefore like to take this opportunity to call on the donor community and development partners to give their financial support to this monetary transfer program intended to fight extreme poverty.
Je vous remercie.
On the silence of the ceremony, the President Gele has indeed listened to the explanations of a representative of the Secretary of State on the operations as well as on the objectives of the PNSF. The head of state, Ismail Omar Gele, has then proceeded to the handing over of cards and books to the Family Solidarity National Program to a number of beneficiaries. In this case, Mrs. Amina Abdullah Iltire, Mako Aden, Jama Ige, as well as Saida Suge.
The preparations for the conventions of the Union for the Presidential Majority UMP is on the right path. Since several days, the former House Reading Club, which will house for the third round time a crowd of people for the conventions of the UMP. Indeed, the technical teams of the RTD are working to broadcast you live the conventions of the UMP planned for tomorrow.
The Union for the Presidential Majority will officially invest tomorrow night its candidate. Around tens of thousands of people are expected to the ceremony, which will be held in the Old Horse Riding Center. But before, let's highlight the inception and the history of this union, also known as the UMP. Here is the history of the UMP.
The 5 different parties among the Union for the Presidential Majority will designate tomorrow night their candidates for the 2016 presidential elections. The head of state, Ismail Omar Gele, will therefore be invested by the UNP coalition. In the aftermath of the peace agreement with the Fruit of Ahmedini, the head of state has given birth to this coalition with the ambition of bringing together the various forces of the national political scene since its creation in 2003. The head of state has therefore been able to convince his 4-time opponents to join this coalition that will shape the Union for the Presidential Majority with the aim of supporting a policy set up on the respect of the national sovereignty and freedom. During the 2003 legislative election, the big political machine, which was at its first election race, won the victory narrowly against the UAD. In 2005, during the presidential election, the RPP of EOJ, the Jean-Marie Froud, the PND of Adam Robla Awale, and the Moum Bahdon PSD, 4 large political parties led by heavyweight, however, decided to unite their force and knowledge to make a common front. In 2006, during the first regional and communal election, the UMP had adopted a special strategy by allowing its components to make their own singular campaigns. The RPP and its allies went on each side. This was a political strategy that has reinforced the strength of the Union for better serving the nation. In February 2013, the UNP coalition gets back on one's feet, making an overwhelming victory in the legislative elections, winning 80% of the seats in the parliament. In other words, 55 seats against 10 seats for the opposition. Today, the UNP coalition is more determined and more vigilant than in the past. The convention of this Friday will be engraved under the sign of unity that will appoint the coalition candidate, though we know that the UNP is invested with a heavy mission and will thus be able to begin its period of pre-campaign. A welded UNP coalition will come down in the arena in April.
An event without images. The Egyptian Ministry of Energy, Mr. Ali Yaqub Mahmoud, has been received on Tuesday in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia by the Saudi Arabian Oil Minister and Mineral Resources, Ali bin Ibrahim Al-Naimi. The discussions were focused on the means to strengthen bilateral cooperation as well as the development of the relations of cooperation in the field of energy, mines and oils. This meeting has assisted the ambassador of Djibouti in Saudi, Mr. Diayeddin Said Bamakrama, is the framework of the consultation between the two countries with a view of broader the horizon of bilateral cooperation. On the other hand, the Djiboutian minister has today held a working meeting with Dr. Abdul Hashim Yamani, president of the City of Kings Abdullah, for the renewable and atomic energy in the presence of the ambassador of Djibouti to Riyadh and its collaborators. The discussion is focused on the cooperation between the two fraternal countries in the areas of renewable energy.
We have the regret to announce the sudden death of the late Idriss Guirre, who passed away this morning in Djibouti. The General Director of the Electricity of Djibouti, Jama Ali Guelle, and the Minister of Health, Dr. Qasim Issa Osman, addresses their deepest and sincere condolences to the families and to close relatives of the deceased. May the Almighty grant him his eternal paradise. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un.
We have the Sub-Lieutenant Hussein Mohammed Badr, commander of the Ali Sabih Gendarmerie Brigade, died January 7 in Djibouti. He will be remembered as a man of honor and integrity. He was an officer estimated for his values of military leader and for his selfless service to the nations. During his distinguished career, he successfully served the Presidential Squadron, the Squadron of the Road Safety, the Brigade Gendarmerie of Tajorra Dakhil, and finally in Ali Sabih. His bravery and patriotism and his loyalty to his country have had worked to him on January 1st, 2011, his appointment to the rank of Officers of the National Orders of 27 June. His human qualities and his remarkable dedication have made him a man appreciated by his leaders and by his subordinates. Hussein Mohammed Badr left us at the age of 59. He leaves behind him a wife and 7 children. By his disappearance, the Republic and the National Gendarmerie regret a valuable officer so distinguished by his services of duty and his spirit. Colonel Zakaria Hassan Aden, Head of State of Staff of the National Gendarmerie, address on behalf of the Gendarmerie and his personal name, his deepest condolence and all his support to the family of the late Hussein Mohammed Badr. May the Almighty reward him with his eternal paradise. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un.
And now, concerning the stories outside the country, in Niger, a large number of refugees and migrants have been returned home after they were deported. They are a part of thousands across the Sahel region who had fled their countries in search of refuge. Their arrival has proven to be quite a challenge for the humanitarian organizations in the region who have had to provide basic medical care.
We have in Yemen 2 Yemeni detainees held at the controversial U.S. military prison in Guantanamo Bay. Cuba has been transferred to Ghana. The Pentagon said Khalid al-Dubi had been approved for release since 2006 and Mohammed Omar bin Atif since 2009. Both have been held for more than a decade and have never been charged. More detail with Saeed Mohammed.
The U.S. military announced on Wednesday that the 2 detainees held for years without charge at the Guantanamo Bay prison will be transferred to Ghana, leaving 105 detainees at the notorious camp. Yemeni Mahmoud Omar Mohammed bin Atif, 36 years old, and Khalid Mohammed Saleh, 38 years old, will settle in Ghana for 2 years, the Defense Department said in a statement. The United States is grateful to the government of Ghana for its humanitarian gesture and willingness to support ongoing U.S. effort to close the Guantanamo Bay detention facility, it said. Ghana Foreign Minister said in a statement that the 2 men have been cleared of any involvement in any terrorist activities but are unable to return to Yemen. It also added that they will be able to leave Ghana after 2 years. Both Atif and Dumbi had been cleared for release in 2010. U.S. President Barack Obama has pledged to shut the controversial prison located in Cuba since its election in 2008. Despite signing an executive order in 2009 to shut it down, Obama has not been able to do so because of political opposition. A number of prisoners have been freed and resettled in places other than their home countries, with detainees sent to Uruguay, Estonia, Kazakhstan, and Oman. Of the 779 detainees brought to the prison in 2002, most have been freed or transferred without facing any charges.
People have been killed in a truck bomb attack on a police training center in the Libyan town of Zildin. There are conflicting reports about the number of casualties. A hospital source has put the death toll at 65, with many more injured. The attack took place as hundreds of recruitees were gathering for a graduation ceremony. Witnesses said civilians were among the victims. In turmoil since the overthrow of Gaddafi, Libya is split between rival political factions and armed groups. ISIL has used the chaos and security vacuum to expand its presence. The UN's special representative in Libya, Martin Goldberg, took to Twitter to condemn what he described as suicide attack. Well, that's it for tonight's news. Thanks for your attention. The program still continues in RTD. Have a great evening.
Vous êtes étudiant. Vous possédez une ligne fixe sans Internet. Djibouti Telecom a la solution pour vous.